Good morning, ceramics family. So today let's talk about making your ID stamps. These are the stamps that we're going to use to mark all of your creations. That way we get a really nice clean finish to your IDs without having to worry about cleaning up the details from etchings every single project. So couple things before I get into the actual carving of them, things to know. So we want to make sure that we're keeping them fairly small. I generally use the tip of my thumb as a good estimator for how big, how tall really you want your stamp to be at the most. So about one thumb tall and one thumb wide. Though if you need if you need it to be wider, that's totally fine. You just don't want it to get too big all around. So we want to keep it nice and small. Notice, it's kind of try to get it so that you can see, but the stamp, the functional part of the stamp itself stands up off of the stamp head. So we want whatever our design is, we're going to end up carving everything else around it and leaving the design behind. You can kind of start to see it. There's lots of examples around the room. So, and there's lots of examples in the stamps drawer. You can always grab one to really get an idea of what you're looking for. And then, so we've got the stamp design itself that we're leaving behind. We're carving everything else. When I draw this up, I usually like to think about it in block letters. It makes me visualize it a little bit easier. And then the other big thing to keep in mind is if we want, when we use the stamp, for the mark to be the correct way for us to read the stamp itself, we actually have to make backwards. Let's see. So in order for the stamp to make that mark, the stamp itself is backwards. Kind of. It's upside down. There we go. There's the right way. So forward mark, backward stamp. All right, so let's get into the nitty-gritty of actually carving this. First of all, they don't have to be super big. I generally whatever ball of clay you're working from, I just kind of grab about that much, even less than what I have in my hand. This is probably going to be a good amount. If you want to if you want to get super elaborate with the handle, you can always use more. But I found that if you start off with less clay, it's less likely to grow too big. So, and I'm notorious for making my stamps super tiny. The big focus of this particular project is the stamp itself. We want it to be functional. So you can add decorations and designs and be fancier with the handle, but the priority is the stamp itself and the mark that it makes. Because if you don't have a good mark, it doesn't really matter how pretty the handle itself is. So you can make it pretty, or you can just make it, enough for something for you to hold on to. Because we're carving everything away, you want to make sure that the stamp head surface that you start with is decently thick. I usually keep my handles as just a solid thing, but if you really were going to have a separate stamp head separate from the handle, I would prepare to have a stamp head about this thick when you start carving. That way you've got plenty of material to support behind whatever your design is. So once I've got basically my handle shape, which direction am I going to do? I think it's going to be kind of diamond today. I just when I'm starting with the pinch pot, I usually start by just tapping against the table to give myself a nice even flat surface to start with. And then before I start any sort of carving, I usually mock out whatever my design is lightly. with really any sort of slightly pointed tool. Now, you'll notice as I'm about to mark this out, I'm not using the very tip of the needle tool. I'm going to use the side because I want a light impression, not like a super hard carve mark. So let's mark in my letters real quick. And when I do this, I find it helps me to keep space, make sure I've got room for all the things that I'm trying to include, but also because I'm not pushing in super deep. It's very light. If I make a line that I'm not happy with, I can just kind of smudge it to quote unquote erase it, and then redo whatever I need to redo. Okay, and then I've got a little circle happening up top that I can't really use the sides for. Okay, so you can kind of see, and get a little closer. There we go. You can kind of see I've got just very lightly the impression of the stamp that I'm about to carve. I've got my M and my dot, which is conveniently also a W and a dot. I plan on using this stamp twice whenever I mark my stuff. That way I can use it one way for my M and then upside down for the W. And the dot adds just a little extra like unique identifier. All right. So I've got everything marked out. I've got the rough shape. Now I'm ready to start revealing my actual design. And what you're going to end up wanting to do is you're going to want to use one of these mini ribbon tools. You'll find them in the trimming tools drawer. They're very similar to tools that you have in your bin. They're just smaller, which, we're working on a smaller item. So a smaller tool is going to help you really be able to navigate the space that you have. All right, so anytime I'm starting any sort of carving project, before I get bogged down in the details, I am going to go and just quickly get rid of a bunch of extra clay that I know I'm not going to need, and I'm just going to get the bulk out of the way really quick. And so as I'm going around carving, I'm going to start from one end. I'm going to make use of this nice right angle that I've got. And I'm going to start at one end and pull it basically all the way across. And I'm using my thumb as a buffer at the back side to help reinforce the clay as I'm cutting so that it cuts cleanly rather than tearing. If I were to just leave my thumb out of the way, you're going to get kind of a rough tear at the edge. And it's not as nice. It's more work to clean up than you need to. So if you reinforce with your thumb, it makes sure you have a good clean cut the whole way. So again, right now I'm just getting rid of bulk that I know I'm not going to use. I'm not worried about any detail spaces yet. Okay. So for my little design, my M and my dot, that's pretty much what I've got for like bulk stuff that I can get rid of. Now I'm going to start to carefully go into those detail areas. And again, it's a lot of using your thumb at the edge as a buffer to make sure you're getting good clean cuts the whole way. These inside corners are actually they're not the hardest to do. What you can do is you can take the loop of your mini ribbon tool, and I'm going to go just straight down into the clay at that corner of my M, and then I'm going to pull it across. And I get a nice, good chunk of that detail area taken out right away. And I'm going to repeat that on the other side. I'm just going to press straight down and then pull it out, pulling all of that extra clay that I don't need with me. And I might go reinforce this outer edge a little bit. And inside here, because I've got a really tiny tight space around my circle that I've got going, I might use the very pointed end just to carve that circle bit free. And then I can go in and get the detail top part of that M space free. So at this point, I've got the bulk of the excess material out of the way. Now it's a matter of going in with some of those wooden modeling tools, especially the very finer pointed ones. And even the very edge of your clay knife. Those are both all going to be some really good tools for you, really just to clean up the cut marks. And when I say that we're cleaning up the cut marks, a lot of the time I'm using some sort of flat, and it's a skinny flat tool, but there's a pointed edge to it. And really, I'm not even I'm not cutting with the pointed edge. I'm just using the flat surface to tamp the rough areas down and to reinforce all of those good cut lines that I've made. So I've still got a little bit of cleaning to do on this, but for the most part, the design itself is free, and it's just a matter of cleaning up the cut edge. Good luck. Hunt me down if you need me.